I'm in Max. You are listening to Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. I'm in Max. You are listening to Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. I'm in Max. Pursuing the RPG hobby with reckless abandon.
Why problem make when you no problem have you don't want to make?
Why, hello! Welcome to...
Speak further this way.
Oh, God. Come on.
I want to sit me close to you.
Welcome to Season 23, Episode 14 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu.
My name is Kimmy.
I'm Stork.
My name is Gina.
In this episode of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast, Matt writes in to ask how to get the most out of a short session. Jeb writes in about gaming with kids. And Hannah from the Windy City writes in about an overreaching player. But first, if you'd like to email us, you should email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com.
Do it.
We're also on all of the social media.
Yep.
Happy Jack's RPG, all one word. On Twitter, and Facebag, and Instagram, and MeWe. Come MeWe with me. And I've been posting a lot on MeWe.
Really?
Just to prove me wrong.
Yep, exactly why.
Quickest way to get Stu to do something is tell him not to. Whatever you do, Stu, don't post
Or
in
you
MeWe.
won't do that.
You'll never.
that.
Hold my beer.
Yeah. That's where you got that from, Ms. Kimmy. Where
Yes.
everyone was like, what's that thing on Kimmy's head?
Oh,
Do you know
yeah.
what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So when we were doing ShadowCon, Turo, who's amazing, great player. First time I played with him, though, doesn't know me super well. So at one point we were joking about, my flight helmet having my character's name on it. So I kind of put my name tag on my head first, joke as a second. So he's like, oh, I'll give you $1 if you do that for the whole game.
Did you get
Guess
$1?
what? I got $1.
Awesome.
About 2/3 of the way through the game, he's like, I really hope I have $1. You better have $1.
It was funny.
Yeah. Also, if you check out happyjacks.org/3million, we're doing a giveaway right now. We're giving away that amazing set of Ancient Dragon dice that we got from Easy Roller Dice. They're fantastic.
EasyRollerDice.com.
You can check out there, and you can enter to win those dice. There's a bunch of different ways to enter. Check out.
Easy Roller Dice.
That's a lovely sound effect. It's very nice. happyjacks.org/3, the number 3. Don't type THREE, just the actual numerical 3 million.
Somebody on the forum was posting that, and he took a screenshot that it was already at 666. And he's like, I didn't want to post because it just looks so good.
It's so perfect. It's present now. It's at 700 something now.
right.
So you can definitely go. You won't ruin anything. And you could win some really cool dice. Because we have been downloaded in the last 10 years over 3 million times now.
Yes, we have.
That's all.
It's much higher now.
Actually, more than that.
Yeah.
Because they only started keeping track in our third year?
Third or fourth season,
Something like
yeah.
that.
And even keeping track is still kind of a squishy number because it's hard to keep track.
You never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
Well, we're officially at 3,020,000 now. So we're very safely, definitely
Yes.
in the 3 millions.
All right.
If you'd like to watch us live, you can go to happyjacks.org/live and watch us at 7 p.m. Pacific time and on every Friday. And there's that. Also, we have a game convention coming up. The one that's coming up is
Orcon.
Orcon. And it is President's Day weekend. And it's at the LAX Hilton. And we're going to be streaming some shows. We're going to be streaming some games live.
For the first time. It's very exciting.
I really hope Tyler runs a President's.
Is he going to be down?
At
He's
President's
not
Day.
coming down this time. He was planning on it, but he won't. But he's hopefully going to come down to another one. So he will hopefully be streaming at that con too.
Sorry,
Nice.
Canada.
Yeah.
He'll probably come down for the one that I'm not at.
Yeah.
If I come down for
Probably.
Gateway.
Yeah.
No,
he's
not
cheap.
Gateway. GameX.
GameX. He's going to try and come to the one that people are at.
Okay.
Because he loves me, but not that much.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. First, our first email. Gaming briefly from Matt. Oh, by the way, I just have to say, I watched Perfume,
Oh.
which is a German thing. I think it
Super
was.
messed up
I think it's
show on
made
Netflix.
for Netflix,
Roughly based on the book and the...
which I'm told is French.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not like a German remake of Shampoo.
With an amazing
No.
movie with Ben Whishaw in it.
It's
But
creepy as
Yeah.
fuck.
All right.
Yeah.
It's one of the most disturbing things I think I've ever seen.
Really, because I just rewatched Blue Velvet, and that's still pretty fucked up.
No, this is fucked. I don't know if I
Much
could
worse.
watch a mini series on that. It was watching the film and reading the book was hard enough.
Wow.
There's
a
some
really
really
good book.
screwed up stuff, and
Yeah.
just the people in it are just
Why are you bringing this up?
just because
Just
I
the
just
company?
watched it.
It's
Should we
Yes.
be offended?
He's traumatized.
I'm slightly traumatized.
On the flip side of that, then watch Dairy Girls.
Okay.
DERRY,
Oh, yes!
right?
Oh my god. I'm listening to it right now to get my Irish accent back for Traveler.
Awesome.
It's ridiculously
You guys
dumb
should
and
watch
hilarious.
Peaky
It is,
Blinders
yeah.
if you want accents.
Oh yeah, I've been watching that too. I watched that for our G-Next game, so I have to.
Peaky Blinders was
I love Peaky
astonishingly
Blinders.
good. I had no
Yeah.
idea.
I had a bunch of Audible credits, so I got the first Game of Thrones book. So I'm
Yeah.
listening to that now, and wow, the stuff they leave out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm obviously the book's 35 hours. The first book
Yes.
is 35 hours
Yeah.
long.
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah, they're not cheap on Audible either.
Well, no, it was a credit. It was one credit.
Oh, totally. When you
Yeah,
have credits.
I have a membership.
Yeah, no, me too.
I finally broke down and got a membership. So.
Yeah, it makes sense.
All right. First email, gaming briefly, from Matt.
I game brief me all the time when I'm sitting in my shorts.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dear
I'm
Happy
remembering that
Jacks,
this week.
try the mutton. I've started running a 5e D&D game at work with a bunch of coworkers. Of the 6 players, 4 are brand new to the tabletop RPGs, but enthusiastic novices. The game actually takes place after work. By the time people have gotten and eaten dinner, it's usually at least 6 p.m., if not later, and due to many various domestic harmony reasons, we have a hard stop around 8:30 every game. This is a big difference to how I grew up playing D&D, where it was kind of an endurance sport that ran for hours and
Yeah.
hours and only stopped when there no longer was a quorum of conscious players.
Yeah,
I remember those.
I remember those.
I had those
days.
all the way through college.
Totally, I had those all the way through high school.
Yeah.
Anyway, they've gotten to 3rd level and are about halfway through the dungeon in the Against the Cult of the Reptile God, and it's feeling like we just don't get a lot done in a session. Part of this is due to childish behavior on the part of the players, parentheses, sleeping characters frequently waking up to find phallic designs drawn on their faces. This leads to a lot of posturing and near intra-party combat, end parentheses. But I worry that the standard dungeon crawling activities burn a lot of time, more than than drawing dicks on people's faces, I suppose. For example, okay, you go left, let me draw out the next part of the dungeon you see, scribble, scribble, scribble. Okay, now what? Left again? Okay, scribble, scribble, scribble. Ah, an encounter. Let me set up for that. Scribble, 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 fetch miniatures, etc.
I think they should actually make the maps in the shape of phalluses.
Yes!
So that way, when it's on their face,
Yes.
they know where to go.
Get forehead-shaped pieces of paper.
Just follow your nose.
Oh man.
My question is this. Given that I have a limited time each session, we meet every other week, what are some things I can do to encourage the best game I can in the time I have available? I don't know if I can go theater of the mind with such a new group of players, especially after I started them out with the full Battlemat grid combat experience. Thanks in advance, Matt. P.S. Drink!
Excellent. Huzzah.
I think you should totally go full theater of the mind, don't you? Don't you think? I mean, these guys are already they're already ignoring what's there, so.
No, you first.
What do you think? Go.
Okay. I'll just say the one thing, and then I have a bunch of different things that I'll say later. But one of the things we say frequently is that maybe this is the kind of game they want.
Could be.
And if it's after work, and I don't know how long they've been playing, it doesn't mean you shouldn't try for a different experience or to get more bang for your buck. But this might be just what they're looking for, is beer and pretzels and screwing around and being a little bit social.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Theater of the mind can totally work for D&D. You have to be careful about you don't specify what roles your players have or your characters are, but that can really screw over some of the classes in D&D. Like the monk is a great example of that. Like the monk's big power is their movement. So Theater of the Mind tends to take away. So, like you can still have them move farther, but in Theater of the Mind, it's not as big an advantage. So if someone's put a bunch of their character into that can be a big problem. I think so. I don't think you have to do Theater of the Mind. I don't think that's the number one thing. And I actually prefer when I play in D&D not to have Theater of the Mind. I like maps for that game. I don't play it a lot, but
I do too.
yeah. It's helpful for that.
It's part of the experience of D&D.
Yeah.
I kind of like maps for all my games anyway. Just so Bill put it best for me, which is it's nice to have some terrain so you have an idea of what you're at, where you're at,
And what you can work with.
Yeah.
what you can work with.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And my experience is actually, especially with D&D, sometimes you can almost lose time trying to explain things for theater of the mind
Yes.
combat that you wouldn't have to explain when you actually have a mat there.
Yeah.
So, oh no, I thought it was to the left. No, it's to the right. Like, a lot of times you get in those conversations that can actually eat up more time than just drawing it out on the map and dealing with that.
I don't remember.
Yep.
4th edition had the sort of controller subgroup of character types.
Yeah.
Did those still kind of exist in 5th? I don't remember.
A little bit, like the mechanics are a little bit better, but...
But I mean, but they
I
had
haven't
things
played
like
them.
push a character
Yeah.
No, there was a
There's-
hard controller.
thing. I don't know if
Yeah.
that is there in
They still have stuff like that, like they have...
Warlock might have spells. some
Yeah,
spells
and they've
like
got
that.
like
Social.
grapple vines and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So and that are good, and they always like everything else, like the same sort of thing with Savage Worlds. Like you've got those area of effect spells.
Right.
That number of squares matters.
Oh sure, yeah.
So-
that's
You're
the difference
cheating.
between sorry Bob, you're going to be inside my fireball.
Yeah.
You're
Hope you
cheating-
make your deck save.
cheating a character and some of the experience of like where do you drop that fireball?
Yeah.
Because that's also interesting.
Oh yeah.
So suddenly it's like, well, my fireball is this big. Oh, well, if I shrink it, how can I? And then there's this tactical thing about how do I do this without killing the entire party?
Right.
But the way I did that in the last session of Bloodblade and Tusk, one of the characters dropped an area of effect fire spell, and one of the things that I did is I had them. I said, okay, you can hit most of the bad guys and miss the rest of the party. But if you include this person, this one player character in it, you can get all of the bad guys.
Yeah.
We didn't really have the map set up in detail, but I just kind of gave them a choice. I said,
Yeah.
you can get, let's say there's 8 of them. You can get 5 of them without hitting a player character. Or if you hit this one player character who happens to be really tough, you can probably get all of them.
Yeah.
And they opted to get all of them. It's
Yeah.
like, all right,
Good job.
there you go.
I want to kind of
think-
address maybe the what's between the lines here.
I have
This
one
may
more
be
thing
surprise-
about
okay,
the
go
maps
ahead.
real quick.
No,
Sorry.
please. I'm sorry.
Just before we move on to the next thing. Also, the thing is, like you say with your novice players, I think Theater of the Mind, some people can just jump right into it. But I think Theater of the Mind is a lot easier after you've played role-playing games with maps for a while. You start getting that ability to envision these things and envision kind of what this looks like. So it's good to have that practice and kind of that foundation, like, walking before you run, basically. So it's good to have their first game, which it sounds like it is, like, have that probably.
Right.
And then maybe your next campaign, try Theater of the Mind.
Go ahead.
Well, if your definition of theater of the mind is different than our definition of theater of mind, like Sandbox is different everywhere you go.
Yeah.
And maybe it just means more talking and more social interaction, and more role playing and less following the breadcrumbs.
Because it sounds like they're having fun with that.
It does. That was just where I was going to go with this, which is if theater of the mind for you means that they're spending more time with character interaction and talking in character and interacting with NPCs rather than going to the module and doing the dungeon, you take a step back and go, okay, if they're having fun, as
Yeah.
Gina just said, that's key, and they're not picking up the breadcrumbs, they don't want to go to the dungeon, then don't force them.
I think Theater of the Mind in this context, the way they're using it, is doing a combat specifically with a mat or Theater of the Mind without a mat.
Yeah.
Well,
So
that's
it's
what I
not
think.
whether they go to the dungeon or not. It's once they're in the dungeon, do we draw it out and count the spaces,
Not spend the
or
time
do we
drawing
just
a bunch of
describe the
maps.
combat?
It's
Yeah.
actually more than that because he talks about the fact that even when you go into empty rooms, he draws them out. So he's
Yeah.
got a large
Yes.
battle map and he's drawing
Out
the
everything.
dungeon as they go.
Got it.
You can probably theater of the mind the stuff that doesn't have combat.
Yeah.
Or,
That-
or just streamline it even more than you already are doing. But otherwise, yeah.
I'll just say, okay, I'll draw it. There's a circle. That circle represents a rectangle.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
stew.
Here-
Right.
Here's a
Of
room
ours.
that's got 4 sides.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know? What's in the room? Okay, it's
I,
got this.
I think that's probably the. I think if you, the D&D experience with combat is different without a map. So I would definitely
Yeah.
draw the map out when it comes to the combats.
Yeah.
But I think if they're going through, if there's 4 rooms and the last of the 4 rooms has an encounter, I don't know if I would bother drawing the first 3 rooms. I'd just say, or just trace a line and say, here.
Yeah, because otherwise it does sound like he's doing a lot of, okay, we go left, and he's drawing everything. It kind of sounds like.
The other possibility is you can go real old school
And map as
Oh,
you
and
caller?
tell the players, okay, so you go down the hallway. The hallway looks like it's about 40 feet long, and it opens up into a room that looks like it's about 30 by 30. Let them draw it. One of the players can be designated.
I thought you were saying a mapper and a caller, but you're saying just the mapper.
Yeah, well, the GM just describes it, and one of the players either draws it on that or just draws it on graph paper like we did when I was in
Do you remember
junior
that?
high
And
school.
then you compare notes at the end of the adventure
And see how different they are.
Your maps were, and they were often pretty close. Sometimes
Yeah.
you would screw things up.
My favorite tactic is to have the different battle maps and have the different rooms on different battle maps. You just you went left.
Yes.
Oh, here's the so it sort of doesn't matter if they go right or left. They get
Right.
the same thing.
And depending on the size of the rooms, if they'll fit on a sheet of 8.5 by 11
Yeah.
paper, or what is it, 8.3? What is a regular size paper?
8.5 by 11.
No, in Europe, what's a regular size paper? Is it
Oh,
A2 or
geez,
A3?
I don't
I don't know.
know. I'm not
They use the
Euro.
metric
It's
system.
A something. Well, it's because you can fold it and make the next size paper.
Oh, is that
I
is that
discovered.
what that
That's
stuff
how
says?
it.
A4,
There's a
A5,
big
some-
piece of
some-
paper which is A something, and you fold it once, and then it's the next number, and then you fold it again, and it's the next number.
That's smart.
I had no idea.
They're smart.
I guess. I don't
Yeah,
know.
well,
I don't know. I don't know if it
metrics,
is.
we did not.
Yeah.
It should be enough.
The other thing that's super cheap is if you go, they're living through office supplies, they have the big Post-it.
Oh yeah, the big easel.
Yeah.
Yeah, the easel
Yeah.
things now that have 1 inch by 1 inch squares that you can literally like cut into any size you want. And I have them in my classroom to do math problems and stuff. But just rip it off, and it's got Post-it stuff on it, so you can literally post it on the walls till you're ready, and you can pull it down.
Yeah, and he could, if he really wants to have the entire thing mapped out, you could pre-draw it on even 8.5 by 11 sheets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just cheat the sizes of some of the rooms down maybe a little if you need to, or
Yeah.
whatever.
Did you have anything you were going to say?
Yeah. I was going to say, I would actually have a conversation with them and ask them, just say, hey, are you guys having fun? Do you want it to be a little more, do you want to see a little more story each session, or are you liking the pace? And honestly, if they're fine, maybe,
Right.
you just kind of make your peace with that. But if they aren't, then I would, or if they say, yeah, no, we would love to get a little more done, da-da-da-da.
Okay, we'll stop drawing dicks on each other's faces.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think what Stork said is maybe they are looking for some sort of interpersonal or some RP opportunities that aren't there if you're just doing a dungeon crawl. I'm not familiar with this module at all.
Right.
Cult of the Reptile God. But otherwise, I think you're in a position, if they're like, yeah, we wouldn't mind getting a little more done or getting, the level kind of amped up. I was thinking about this, Stu. I don't know if it was like 3 seasons ago. Do you remember when we went through you basically turn the dial up on like tension, pacing, conflict, emotional narrative, like to kind of change the pace of the story. Do you remember when we did
Yes.
that?
Yeah, I do.
It was like 3 seasons ago or
Yeah, it was a
something.
while.
And you should totally go back and listen to those because you covered one each episode for like
Right.
6 weeks or something. There
Right.
were some really great suggestions, but if you get more emotional involvement from them with the matter at hand and not necessarily with just drawing dicks on foreheads, or just
It's a code switch.
yeah,
So what you need to do as a GM is make that code switch from, you guys aren't taking this serious enough, or you guys are apparently doing a different game and forgotten about this other game, and so you want to remind them in a way.
yeah. And I don't think
It's
you have
that
to
moment.
be a dick.
No.
You just story-wise turn a dial or two.
You have a kid eat their mom's eyeballs.
Yeah.
That's how you. That's
Right.
how you
Totally.
fix that.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, listen to our very first EP
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
Right. But
That's a good example, though.
I wonder if he's going to have because we ran the Elderme actual play was 2-hour sessions,
Yeah.
I think, and when we got to higher levels and we started approaching level 10, got real hard. I had to make a decision. Okay, is this going to be a session where we do a combat?
Those are 4-hour sessions.
I don't think that was a
We
4-hour.
played Eldemy for 4 hours.
I thought we played during the
Monday
week.
night.
It was Monday nights.
Was it?
We played from 8 to 10.
Oh, man.
I'm pretty sure it was 2-hour sessions.
Maybe.
It was. But the thing that killed me was the fact that it's like once you get up to a higher level, you ain't going to run a combat in
2
under
hours.
that amount of time.
Yeah.
Once you get up to higher levels and players have all kinds of stuff they can do and the monsters get more complicated and all the hit points go up. So it became, okay, am I going to have a combat this session or are we going to play a role-playing game this session?
Right.
You know what I mean? So as you get higher up, you're going to start running into that problem.
Yeah, and you started talking to us, too, about, okay, we need to streamline this so we can get through this. Make sure when it gets to your turn, you already know what you're going to do.
Right.
Make sure that you're paying attention when everyone else is going so you know where they're at, so you don't have to be like, oh, it's my turn. Where is everybody?
Oh, wait, I was going to do this, but so-and-so is not in the right spot. Right.
Yeah, so make sure, like, to have that talk with them. Yeah.
It's me?
I'm sorry? Yeah.
Right.
So
I'm on my phone.
So they're not, so they're not wasting time playing on their phones, so that they're not wasting time, like, recapping and trying to catch up, because they're checking out when it's not their turn. And that's something that is, like, D&D especially, it's a thing players do. I think also, like, picking a focus. This is something we actually struggled with Aldemy, now that I remember that, but also when we switched to doing streamed games during the week, because we started out with 2-hour sessions from 8 to 10.
Right.
We bumped it now to 7 to 10 because it was just really difficult to constantly be at a 2-hour limit for gaming.
Right.
But a lot of the GMs were picking like one thing that kind of was the focus of each like episode, kind of like you would do at the TV show. And really just focusing on that. And a lot of times you're right, Stu, like it would end up being, okay, this is the story part, this is, a combat part, this is a traveling, we're going to do decide and go to a new place part. So it ends up being much more broken up, more like chapters in a book rather than like a long story.
Right, yeah.
And if you think about it in a modular way like that as the GM, and you can, it'll be easier for you to facilitate that for your players. And tell them to bring dinner and just freaking eat it at the table. Why are they going to get dinner and then coming back?
Well, we had that problem too. I mean, everybody's schedules are different, and you don't want people, eating their box of chicken in front of other people that rush to get there. It gets weird. So sometimes we actually used to do dinner breaks. I think when we were doing
when we were not streaming.
Yeah, when we weren't streaming, we would do dinner breaks.
You can hear some of them on our first APs because we wouldn't turn off the mics. We'd sit and eat
Thai food
while we
came.
played.
Thai food. Okay, we'd pause it. Go pay for the food, divvy everything up, and then we'd eat while we were playing.
It's
We've learned a lot since then.
Yeah.
I'd be curious too. Out of the I think they're all coworkers, but 2 of them are not new players, and 4 are new.
Right.
Are the 2 not new players frustrated by the experience? Have they expressed anything, or is this?
I think it's the GM who's frustrated.
That's
Sounds
what I'm
like it.
thinking.
That's kind of what I'm
That's right.
reading between the lines.
I'm not necessarily reading frustration as they're concerned that, hey, I've got a 2.5-hour window. I feel like we're not getting through enough of this story.
Well, I think certainly talk to the players. If they're having fun and they think they're having a blast, then it's not a problem. Unless you're having a problem with it as well, because your opinion matters too.
Yeah. And
it does.
One more thing that ended up helping a lot of the games that were in 2 hours is some conversation ahead of time. We would do it in Slack and stuff, but talk about, okay, hey, let's as a group set some goals for the next session.
Right.
So it's not like you're not metagaming. You're not planning what you're going to do. You're not scripting out the game. You're like, hey, before we sit down, let's agree what we want to try and accomplish as far as like the goal. So that way, when everyone sits down, they already have that goal in mind together.
Yeah.
Right.
And then if one of the players wants to fuck with it or whatever, that's great. But everybody already comes down, sits at the table with ideas.
Right.
I'll give you one more pro tip. If you love maps as much as I do, buy a bunch of them. There's some great online resources.
Yeah, there are.
And you know what? That tavern map that you bought can become a church. It can become a house.
It could become a beer church.
It can become a beer church. If you really want, you could draw your own maps. You can have them Xeroxed off, or go to Kinko's or any other, and they're still out there. And you can get a map blown up to the right size, and then you can just drop down generic things. That will save you time from the writing, drawing, scribbling. You drop a map down for anything. I love having pre-generated maps with terrain and like for one, I bought a church once. I bought a church that has pews and things. It could be a meeting house. It could be a church. It could be a pub. You just ignore some of them. You drop church. It could be a beer church. So and there's no drawing. There's no waiting around. You just unfold the thing. You drop it down. You put the miniatures on. Off you go. Yeah. You have saved yourself 20 minutes.
Right.
And those maps are invaluable, and they look great. And there's terrain. There's columns to hide behind. There's what's that? It's a door. Can I hide in there? Yeah, it's all there, and it just gives you more to work with. So.
And the thing is, I mean, if you're using a pre-generated module and you want to keep the map as close to the actual module as you can, you can pre-draw. If you have a printer, take 8.5. What is A4 paper or letter size paper, whatever your standard paper is, and just print out 1-inch grids on it. and then draw the sections of it, and then you're just boop, boop, boop.
I actually found a program that will blow up a picture, and then if you tell it what size paper you have, it will distribute it amongst all the various size papers, and you can make full-scale
like
books out
a
of it.
giant,
cool.
like
Very simple.
posterizing
It was
it.
free.
Right, yeah.
It was free to find.
That's cool.
I think it was called Posterizer or something, but it was so literally I would find these maps, and then I would have it printed up amongst 3 or 6 of these things, tape it together, bam, instant map, and I'd use them for cons. So that will save you a ton of time if that's one of the things you think is holding you up.
Yeah. And if any of these ideas work for you, please write us back and let us know.
Yeah.
We need feedback.
Yeah.
Well, and we need to know if our ideas are actually any good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt, for the
Thank
email.
you.
We appreciate it.
It's a great question.
Next up is Gaming with Young Kids from Jeb.
I'll read this one.
All right.
You got kids.
I got kids. Happy New Year, Happy Jacks.
Hello.
And to all you douchebags at sea. This is Jeb, not Jim. To tell you that I have achieved the pinnacle of my gaming aspirations. I am getting paid to run Dungeons & Dragons.
What?
Slow clap.
I'm total jelly.
Yep.
Me too.
Yeah.
And you're going to be even more jelly because our school system provides weekend activities for youngsters during the winter months. You must live in a cold climate where they actually close schools.
I think he's East Coast.
Yeah.
Presumably, so their parents can get an hour and a half alone time on Saturday morning.
That's a euphemism.
Bow, chicka, bow, wow. For the past few, so they can make more students.
You need an hour and a half? Sorry.
Yeah. Drive time.
there you go.
Drive time.
Well, they might shower first.
Yeah.
Oh. That's true.
Ew. For the past few years,
And take out the trash. Seriously, I told
Ew.
you to take out the trash.
is that what his foreplay is
No,
these days?
no.
Just taking out the trash.
It's like,
No.
that's your job. This one's my job.
Look,
joking. Take
I've
out
got
the
an
trash.
email here. Hold on, can I finish
Yeah.
here?
Yes.
Just before we
Absolutely.
get way too off the topic, because
Okay.
a lot to say about taking out the trash. For the past few years, I taught magic lessons. Oh my God, he teaches at Hogwarts. He's a teacher at Hogwarts.
I think he means Magic the Gathering.
No,
I think he means
really-
magic. He's a magician.
I taught
Yeah.
magic lessons. He says.
Got it. Okay.
But his
He can bend reality with his mind.
That's not how that works. It's
but
not.
his interest waned. Oh no, it has to be Magic the Gathering.
No, it isn't. It isn't.
Okay.
No,
No,
it's
he's a
sleight
magician.
of hand. Magic.
I'm going to start this whole sentence again. For the past few years, I taught magic lessons, but as interest waned, theirs and mine, this year I suggested running D&D instead. The organizers enthusiastically agreed, and my games sold out almost immediately.
Nice.
This means I'll be running an adventure for 6 kids, 2nd through 4th grade.
Little kids.
I'm thinking of Ravenloft or Tomb of Horrors. Kidding.
Tomb of Horrors.
Yeah, for the first.
It's like, can we talk to Asarak and maybe convince him not to be bad?
I climbed into his mouth.
I can
I'm-
see
I'm
second
dead.
graders doing that all the time.
Yes.
I have a first level adventure plan, complete with pre-gen characters. I found a simplified, easy-to-read character sheet online. For the spellcasters, I made up a little booklets with descriptions of the spells and simplified language. What you need, what you do, and what it means. I ordered bulk dice from EasyRollerDice.com.
Hey,
Naturally.
badass.
Turns out they're in Ohio. Who knew?
Oh, excellent.
Some little fabric dice bags for the kids to keep. I even made little dice templates to tell them what each die is.
Nice.
I plan to keep the character sheets and dice with me so that no one can leave them at home.
Excellent.
I'm borrowing some minis and put out my battle mat. And finally, I wrote a letter of introduction to the parents, telling them about myself and about the game so that they won't have to rely on their kids' memories of the adventure. Today we killed the baby goblin. I set the castle on fire and I feel fairly well prepared, but I wanted to ask, and here comes the question.
Uh-oh.
Do you have any suggestions for preparation? If you've run games for small children, or even if you haven't, what pitfalls do you foresee? What would you do to make this a memorable and fun introduction to the hobby? The game starts mid-January, and there's another session in February, so any advice would be helpful. It's now mid-January. Thanks, Jeb, not Jeb. P.S. This is actually my 3rd paid GM gig. No, I think he's
Nice.
bragging, lording it over us. I ran an Eclipse Space game for a high school science fiction club and a Trail of Cthulhu game for my family who wanted to surprise my dad by trying this hobby.
You're your family paid
Yeah.
you to run a game for them?
That's awesome.
You wouldn't do that for free?
That's called an allowance. It's not the same.
Jeb gets the allowance still.
If this keeps up, I should pay for all the gaming stuff I bought. Oh, and say, 1,000 years.
Right, yeah.
It's not going to be paid.
Well, huzzah.
or enough.
That's fantastic.
That's
We're all very jealous over here, Jeb.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we should give you advice simply because, in fact, you should probably pay us for it.
Give us advice on how to get paid.
Yeah,
too.
evidently you don't need our advice because you are the professional.
Yeah. Exactly.
None of us are making any money doing this.
His age range
Second to fourth
is
grade.
very similar to the age range when what was the game? Hero Kids.
Hero
Yeah.
Kids.
Hero Kids, yeah.
Which is a real scaled down RPG for kids, and it's actually really the way the guy does it is there's a core book that explains the rules and it has all the different character types in it, and it has character sheets for the characters, and then you buy the adventures, and the adventures are a couple bucks,
Yeah.
and then it has here's the stuff that can happen in the adventure, here's all of the maps for the adventure to scale, all on 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper. And here's cut out minis for the player characters and all the monsters in this adventure.
It is really cool. It's a totally cool.
It gives you all
system.
this stuff.
It's awesome.
And it's not.
And the character sheets are fun looking too. It's not
Yeah.
like just block stats.
Yeah, and the neat thing about it is, now obviously he's running D&D, so he's going to be running D&D, but it gave the players something to do, because one of the things that I've run a couple of kids games, is I throw a box of crayons out on the table.
So smart.
And then when they have the
So
character
smart.
sheet, on the character sheet, because they give you a male and female version of each character type or class or whatever they call it, and it's drawn like a coloring book picture. So you can sit and, I'm going to draw a color in their characters. And in second grade, they're still doing that.
No, in 8th grade they're still doing that.
Right.
My mother, who taught a library for a long time, would have coloring time, and the 8th graders would
yeah.
sit down and color. They
Look around this
love
table.
it.
You have how many people that draw?
Well,
and
that's
they'll
right.
draw their characters on there. So people still.
My daughter,
Yeah.
her new distraction is using Sharpies to figure out what tattoo she's going to get when she's 18.
Oh, there you go. That's about the age of the kids that I ran in the.
She had
not
this
tattoos.
whole thing all up her
She did a
arm,
sleeve.
but it was like
And a Sharpie.
like vines of a plant, all up her arm. I'm like, Allie, can you get poisoning from that?
No.
From Sharpies?
No.
You can't?
No, I would have died a long time ago
Okay.
because I did the same thing in junior high.
I wonder.
I had
'cause
little fire marks all over.
Isn't
Oh,
there
how
like
cool.
acetone or something in that ink?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Okay.
do you know how much you'd have to eat them?
You haven't seen her arm. Anyway.
Yeah.
Right, but one of the things when I ran this Hero Kids game, and it was for similar ages.
Yeah, so this is like 6 to 10, just for people who
Right.
are like trying to figure out like what 2nd to 4th grade in the United States is.
Right.
That's like about 6 to 10 years old.
One of the things that really stood out to me, except for my son who plays a lot of video games, and he just wants to kill everything. A lot of the kids, when they get to a certain situation, the last thing they're thinking is fighting.
Oh yeah.
They're like, can we talk to them first? Because their little hearts haven't been poisoned by us yet.
I had a
Some of
different
their little hearts.
experience, but-
Did you?
Oh, I did. Yeah.
All right.
I was gonna say,
But I
I
mean,
had a
it's like
different
adults
experience.
don't do that.
And my game was called Dinosaur Princesses, and I had a different experience.
Oh, you did. But it was. But they were like, well, let's talk to them, because they found one of them, and it's like, let's talk to him, and it's like, well, you got to promise you're not going to go and raid the village anymore. Okay, I won't.
Okay,
And-
yeah.
Aw.
So I mean,
sweet.
you may set up for like these big epic combats, and then they talk their way out of them.
No.
Yeah.
You should be prepared for them to think in ways that you can't even fathom. And I would definitely have little guides if you do decide to stick with D&D. Like have little step-by-step guides, especially for combat. Like step 1, like very simple language. Like
Right.
if you can make it in 4 words or less. Because 2nd grade, I mean, I've got 4th graders who don't read English very well above a kindergarten level. So you probably won't know their reading level. So the more simple you can make it, the better. I think that's awesome that you did the picture diagram to help them decode the dice. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
The more stuff like that you can do and the more visual you can make it, it will even the playing field between the 4th graders and the 2nd graders.
I'm going to call out Kimmy's master's degree
Yeah.
in teaching.
My
so,
master's degree, yes.
So just, yeah, I'm going to agree with Kimmy.
It's good. But I spent a lot of money to know these things.
Yeah.
Like, make things pictures so people can understand them. Like, it took a lot of thousands of dollars for me to get a degree in that. But
That was a whole semester's worth of study.
a lot of it.
Probably, yeah.
I took oral interpretation of children's literature, which is basically reading stories out loud.
Uh-huh.
So
Oh, no kidding.
I did that too.
I almost got a C in that class. That's because That's because I didn't study for the stupid quizzes because I was like super into theater, so I was like, I'm gonna take this class, I'll rock it. I rocked I got the highest grade she's ever given on the final because that was the only piece where we actually read out loud and performed.
Really?
The rest of it was us watching and like taking fucking quizzes on Fridays. I was so disappointed by that class. So I of course rebelled by not getting a good grade, which is not an effective strategy.
For
but
rebelling,
For
no.
you.
But I was 18 and I thought that was a wise choice.
Yeah.
Sure. of
So,
course.
but yeah, anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
She got so mad when I aced that.
I actually want to hear your counterpoint to this, which is when you were in a children's game.
No,
I think.
Tell us about the Devil Children.
Oh my gosh. No, and it's about the same age difference. And did the same thing you did. This game actually kickstarted recently. I don't think it's still a Kickstarter, but so same type of thing where I made sheets that were like coloring book types of things, and they could make their dinosaur princess whatever type of dinosaur they wanted. Plus, they helped draw the map. So the game we were playing became a living world that they were adding to.
That's cool.
With,
Good tip.
With their little drawings and stuff like that. The thing that was, I think because I haven't babysat for like a long time and I don't have kids, the thing that I was like, oh yeah, this was the different energy levels and the quiet kids that had this beautiful, freaking gorgeous drawings in front of their place. Because they got to decorate in front of them their section too with stuff their character likes.
Yeah.
But there were two quiet kids who were definitely participating, but they would participate when it was their turn.
Mm-hmm.
I'm air quoting, or when
They were switching crayons.
Poked. Yeah, and then there were the two kids that made their dinosaur princess with flamethrower hands and grenades and. Are those the camo dice? I want the camo dice.
Nice.
And I'm like, I don't have camo dice.
Those are the kids that are sitting on their knees on the chair, leaning over, super engaged,
Oh
right?
my God. They were and they were two 10 or 11-year-old boys.
Mm-hmm.
And I had another 10-year-old boy, and I think Nova was 9. But it was balancing those energy levels because to try to get without being like the enemy of fun or whatever, you have to try to kind of get the kids that are way into it to mellow out enough to draw out the other kids. And if you can use those kids to help draw out the other kids, like get them interested in something the other kids are doing, or, the moment it came to in the game where we needed to have some social skills and everyone had written down flamethrowers and grenades and volcanic rocks and stuff, and I was like, oh gosh, is anybody at the table? And I totally knew that the other little dude at the table had he was friendly and they were all like, oh my God, you have to be the one that talks to the wizard in the cave.
Nice.
So they actually all agreed at one point to let the face man come up and talk to him.
Yeah. No,
Well, they're kids. They're not adults.
So they had kids.
No, I'm on the spotlight. I've got the Vulcan arms. I'm gonna kick him.
Yeah, so
before
I
you guys
guess
can do anything.
that would be my biggest thing, is to be prepared to kind of try to have those kids. Sometimes you have to go, it's not your turn.
Yes.
But maybe see if you can get them engaged in who those other characters are that the other kids are playing, and then they get excited about each other.
Yeah.
But holy crap, Kimmy, tired. I was more tired after running that game than any game I've ever run in my
exhausting.
life. Yeah.
I'm tired because it's been raining here all week, so my kids have been all inside for recess and lunch every single day until today.
Now, this brings up an interesting point because you mentioned different energy levels.
That's
Yeah.
what I was going to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
Everything
ahead.
okay. So
Cool.
riffing off of what you
Yeah.
were saying about facilitating and also making sure that they're able to understand their skill sets. One, I think you should come with at least partially done pre-made characters. Don't just say, hey, there's 4 kids playing, here's 4 options. make like 8 or 9 options that they can choose between. Fill out the math part of it. Fill out the crunchy part of it.
Yes.
Let them put their names and their personalities on it.
Don't let the math challenged child struggle in front of the other kids trying to work out numbers,
Right.
Well,
and
also-
or the
yeah.
dyslexic child trying to write a backstory in
Yeah.
front of everybody.
Well, also,
Do some of that for them.
Second grade, like that's like the math that they are learning in second
yeah.
grade is not advanced enough to do all the things in D&D. So they literally have not been instructed in all the things that they will. I mean, depending on what state you're in, but in California anyway.
Things you assume are easy.
Yeah,
They teach addition in college.
no, they don't.
They do.
Addition, but double
They do.
digit addition is not a second grade standard.
No.
Right.
So if you're adding 14 plus 7, they may not know how to do that.
Right.
So
This is
especially.
Really
Yeah.
smart.
No,
This
that
is a
is
really
really-
good tip.
Yeah, especially like the carrying. That's not something they learn until the end of third grade and fourth
Okay.
grade.
Not what it would
Yeah.
not have occurred to me.
Right.
Good tip.
So make
Good
sure
tip.
that stuff's done.
Definitely.
Let them put their personalities on it. And then when they're working in groups, it helps a lot to have like set roles. And it's better to start out with we call it scaffolding in education. Like a scaffolding in a building holds people up. So it's better to over scaffold and then slowly pull away the supports as they become more independent. So, like, if you say, okay, so for this game, like, let's look at our characters. So, it looks like you're good at talking to people. You can be the speaker. So, like, talk to them about that before you actually start playing the game.
So taking notes. So can you start again
Yeah.
with scaffolding?
Scaffolding. So that,
That's why we record it, so you can rewind.
yeah, so you can rewind and listen to it.
These are really good points.
So that
That's
way
a
they know
great
what they're doing.
point.
And the abilities between the fourth graders to kind of look at their sheet and deduce things for themselves versus what you'll see with second graders is going to be very different. So as like Gina was saying, you
Yeah.
have to be prepared for the different level of energy. You also have to be prepared for that different level of math. And you have to be prepared for that different level of being able to look at that character sheet and figure out what they're good at. So, and you're also going to have to think about that when they're
You may want to explicitly put that stuff on there.
yeah, no, like
At making friends.
Yes.
Right.
and put a picture of a very fighty looking person on it. So they're like, fighter, yeah. Shoot, I was going to say something. And in combat, like those math skills, again, like you don't want that second grader playing the wizard and having to add up like 50 billion D6s. Like, don't let that happen.
Don't
So-
make them embarrass themselves in front of their peers
Yeah.
either. It's like, I'm not good at math, and
Yeah.
I've got to add up all these sixes.
And
all
you
these
might
600.
want to have some calculators there because
Yeah.
you can show a second grader
Oh.
how to use a calculator, and they're able to do that, especially if they're like the big button calculators that are pretty simple, and that will speed things up a lot for you.
And not embarrass them.
The one other point that when you had mentioned
Yeah.
different energy levels,
That's
is-
such a smart idea. Observation.
that made me realize that I don't. What length of session are you planning on running?
Yeah.
Because
Oh, yeah.
Hero Kids ran 2 sessions, and by the end of or 2 hours, by the end of about an hour and a half in, they're getting fidgety and they're about done.
Yeah.
So, and if you're talking, what was he talking? Second to fourth grade, was it?
Yeah.
My experience with my kids, at least, half hour. You need breaks.
Yeah.
I think
You
you're
need
probably going to have to.
snacks.
You do.
And you're probably going to.
Yeah.
You're probably going to want to have other things for them to sort of
Yep.
distract themselves with
Yeah.
occasionally.
That's a good
Because
point.
sitting down and concentrating
Yep.
on something for 2 hours when you're an adult is one thing,
Yep.
and a lot of adults can't do that.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Nope.
that is a really good point. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But we took like a bio snack break in kind of 2/3 of the way through because it's not a 4-hour game.
Build in
but
a lot of
it was
breaks,
close
yep.
to 3 hours.
Good note.
But then if you did that as the DM or facilitator, I would definitely check with the parents on let the kids bring their own snacks.
Yes.
Right.
Do not feed
Yeah,
them.
because otherwise.
It's a
Yeah.
lawsuit.
The
we
The
have
last
to
thing we
happen.
need
Yeah.
to do is give them a peanut butter jelly
So-
sandwich,
Yeah.
and they end up in
Yeah.
anaphylactic.
Yeah, everything has peanuts in it, and it's stupid.
Yeah.
Don't feed them.
You're
Well,
comment
I imagine wherever it is he's holding this has, because it's probably sort of like a
Yeah.
winter daycare thing. They
Yeah.
probably have that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
you are definitely during your game going to want to build in breaks, probably
Yes.
pretty frequent breaks.
You probably can't go wrong with carrots, though, if you want to do carrots.
Think of errands to send them on or assignments that they can do when they are not the spotlight.
Yeah.
So
map to draw.
yeah, so one of the things I do with my wonderful, wonderful kids who are a little bit challenging for me and I need a break. I've worked out with other teachers. We have
It's
the
funny,
yellow.
it's when you need a break, not when they need a break.
Well, a little bit of both. Those moments tend to be both of you. So we have a thing called the yellow folder where, hey, will you go ask Mr. Smith if he's got the yellow folder?
Yes.
And then they go and they ask Mr. Smith. Oh, and Mr. Smith knows the code. And oh no, tell her I put it in her box, not to worry about it. And then he sends back, oh no, Mr. Smith says he doesn't have it. It's in your box. I'm like, thanks. So that kid's gone for about 5 minutes.
Burns off a little energy.
He burns off energy. I get a break from him. He gets a break from me. When he comes back to my question, I get to thank him for doing a good job and for helping me. So he gets that positive cycle of reinforcement started. So if those kids are driving you nuts, like, give them a small task, and they will be very excited probably to do it.
No wonder it was sent down to the cafeteria so many times.
Right, exactly.
That's like Scoutmasters hazing new scouts because, like, you know what? I don't have my left-handed monkey wrench. Would you go ask the other Scoutmaster in the next camp if he has a left-handed monkey wrench? And but in that case, they send you all around the whole camp. Yeah. It's like, no, I don't have it. I lent it at the guy in troop number 105. And he goes over to 105. Do you have this? Oh, you know what? I had it, but I had to give it to this guy over here. And that's the next thing you know, the kid's gone for an hour. And he comes back and says, I can't find one. And he's like, okay, well, I figured it out anyway.
Thank you so much for working so hard. I really appreciate it. High five for working that hard.
Yeah. Right.
I'm still obsessed with the whole energy level thing because that is a really great observation. And more than just bleeding it off and all that, you need to be aware of the fact that kids are going to have different energy levels. And what you might perceive as levels of investment isn't the same as their energy level. The kids that are busy drawing are spending a lot of energy drawing, but you may perceive that as they're not invested in the game, but they are. They're just doing their thing. Mm-hmm. And the other guys that have flamethrowers and things are really invested in like getting a chance to use their flamethrowers because they can't draw.
Yeah.
So their energy levels are different and are going to seem different, but you as a GM just need to observe that.
Yeah.
And acknowledge it because I think that's very important. It's a really great observation.
I think so too. And if you can get in, I know Kimmy knows us more than we even do, dealing with that many kids, around similar ages. But
36 kids.
That's it. That's it. Not even in 40 yet.
No, not even in the 40s. Come on, I haven't even hit my max.
Right. Where you split your stock and then you get actually another room.
I'm legally allowed to have 37.
Oh my god.
I think we were supposed to have 36 when I was in school, and we regularly had 42 to 44.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Now they have to ask my permission, and I get paid extra.
Good.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Good.
Now, let me ask you a question. Yeah. One of the things that happened at the last, the Hero Kids game...
I don't think Gina actually got to the point she was about to make, though.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think if you can get them to somehow appreciate the, the qualities that the other person has... or the character via, through the character, that's a big win.
Yeah.
If you can get, because like you said, Stork, different people get, spark joy from different things. I know, spark joy.
All kinds of great things.
Oh, that's a.
I cleaned out my closet, by the way. I cleaned it. Yeah. I got rid of an entire trash bag of clothes.
All my T-shirts are all folded so perfectly right now. It's very exciting.
I hang all my T-shirts.
Yeah, well, you have enough closet space.
I have 3 closets.
I hate you.
And
I've got 3 separate piles of clean, dirty, and work clothes.
Oh, that's the life I live. Is the whole.
How many ball gowns do you guys own? Because there's not enough closet space in the world.
I didn't look at anything and see if it sparked joy. I looked at the tag and saw what size it was first.
When you say
that was a big decision.
That's a big part of sparking joy. Let me tell you.
When you say ball gown to a guy, it means a different thing.
Yes. Well.
Anyway, my question. One of the things that you may have noticed when I ran the game, because my son Zachary was in the game when we ran it at the time. I think he was 10, 9.
No, he was younger than that.
9, 8.
I think he was 8.
I don't think it was that long ago. He's 11 now.
Really?
A couple years ago.
There was another little boy in the game who was like 5 or 6, though.
Yeah, there was 4 kids and then I think 1 or 2 adults. He had a tendency to want to try to take over. Mm-hmm. And really
Well, you knew the GM.
I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. I think he would have done it with anyone.
Yeah.
I don't think it was just me.
That's his personality.
Yeah. But how would you handle it? Because that is likely to happen. And you put a table of 5 or 6 kids.
Yeah.
A couple of them are going to... It's just like any table. You're going to have people who are going to try to dominate and people who aren't. Mm-hmm. How would you handle that?
Right here.
I know. Not that I'm thinking in particular.
The game that I was running didn't really have a turn mechanic. Mm-hmm. But I used a quasi-turn mechanic so that I could say,
nice,
hey, you were just the lead. We shifted lead positions, so they were all supposed to support each other.
Smart.
Almost like a marching order in the old D&D. Okay,
yeah.
You got to say what happened last time. It's their turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So then I can point to a kind of a rule and
Right.
say, oh, it's so let's see if they have, what their
It's a
idea
structure.
is.
Kids like structure.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And
Well,
that's
and they might not like it, but they kind of need
They'll
it.
respect it.
and they say they don't like it, but
You
kids
really do.
love it.
Yeah,
Kids
no.
love structure. If they
Yep.
don't have structure, they get very unhappy.
Yep.
I do that with small groups a lot. Like there's the leader, there's like the note taker, there's so you give like assigned
Yeah.
roles and you
Yep.
can rotate it. Another great thing would be before you start, have them or instruct them on a way to do group decision making, because they need to be explicitly taught that. They don't.
That is
they don't,
really good.
Yeah, they don't
advice,
naturally
yeah.
know.
Tell us about this, because I could probably use this with my adult games.
Life, yeah. So because with adults, like we can role play things out. Like Stork and I, our characters tend to disagree a lot.
That's on you.
I know it's totally. But for us, part of the fun is role playing it out until we find that middle ground with our characters. Kids are not going to be able to do that, so you can't assume that place. So it's going to be like, okay, your characters have both said what they think. All right, let's make a group decision. So it's going to be, okay, before you even start, our group decision is going to be, Rochambeau, like whatever it is. Or we're going to vote as a group. So you're going to raise your hand for yes, raise your hand for no. And without arguing, you have to specify this part, by the way, otherwise they'll argue.
Yeah.
Without arguing, the one that has the majority, or the most people, because the second graders won't know what majority means, will be...
This is a whole topic, Kimmy. This is so smart.
Like 4
Let's do
people
a
in
whole
chat room
review
have
of this.
said that I should do like a mini series
Yeah,
about
you
this.
could. I totally agree.
Yeah, but have that set up beforehand. And teach it to them before they start and before you get to that first decision.
Yeah.
Because if you wait till they're in that high emotional energy state, they're not going to be able to be as accepting. And maybe we'll do a whole thing on this
We
where
should,
I sit and
we
I
should. Right.
use
Good
my
idea.
master's degree.
And the one last thing I was going to say, because I have a hard time with this, is like not to play favorites, because you're going to find the one kid that maybe that
Yeah.
you connect with and that you think is playing your game right. I have a hard enough time with my kids, and I love both my kids. Actually, all 3 of them, but you
engage differently with.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, because they're different. They're individuals.
They absolutely
So-
are. So you engage with them in different
Yeah.
ways, and it's important, I think, as a GM with kids, is to make sure that you engage with all of them equally.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. No, I think so too.
Thank you, Jeb. I hope
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
gleaned
Yes.
information.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and I would love to hear how that goes.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
me
really,
too.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And
Super cool.
maybe we should do a thing where I talk
I
a lot
totally.
about this.
Yeah.
It's a total
No,
solo
it would be
episode.
It's
Great
funny because
idea.
you don't really realize how nuanced that knowledge is until
is
you're like,
Right.
Yep.
oh no, carrying is partway through 3rd
Yep.
grade. And I
You
gotta-
were totally, yeah, okay.
Yep.
And
we
I've
will
been
table
drinking.
this for another one.
Team Horror from Hannah.
Yeah,
This
that
needs
was
to be
good.
speed read.
All right.
This is long. It's like 3.
Okay.
We may have to split this
pages.
up.
Got it.
Hey, Jack Wagons. I'm slowly working on my on my way backwards to your feed, and wanted to share what I thought was a horror story.
See, that's a C grade.
Yeah.
In reading.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. I'm making it understandable. I'm the editor.
Okay, great.
Okay. Drink now because it's a doozy. I've been drinking. Don't
I love
worry.
doozies.
I was talking with people online, I know, because of a fandom, and wound up forming a playgroup so I could run Dungeon World, a system I love, and also got one other player, we'll call him Mako, from a large D&D group I know. After much planning, we decided on a setting, think Tropical Treasure Planet. Playbooks, I allowed a lot of homebrew books, so the balance was quickly gone, and we started our grand adventure. After having them get acquainted with each other's characters, meeting one player in the shop who was a mechanic, a dancing bard, they set off down to the next town as escorts for delivery. I'm just going to say that I'm reading this, and it's a little, it's not great written, so I love it, but continuing. The first combat opened my eyes to how much combat got thrown out because I didn't know how to say no. As players bypassed armor, and also a bird person could just form
A bird person?
a hold and fly from the sky and do a peregrine falcon strike. I couldn't bring myself to rewind any decisions I made, so I figured I'd adjust. Okay, you're saying yes and
Very elastic.
So he had a stork in his group.
Yeah.
A bird person.
a bird. Yeah, you did stork dives. I think
I
stork
made it with
dives
my
are just
very
like
own-
when you fall over and
Oh,
jump.
actually.
Mako was the only D&D player before this, and picked an artificer who kept trying to skirt the system even more, and ignored how the tags worked repeatedly, then got upset when he couldn't find a workshop in the next town, despite never asking about it. I told him, you're playing an artificer, so some mechanical shop is going to be wherever you go. But this concept seemed to baffle him. He spent a lot of time moping while we played. When we first introduced Mako, he narrates how he's a small doll with a hole in the back of himself where there's a large key next to him. Okay, I thought, some narration. Then he starts asking if anyone turns the key and waits. Eventually, they rev him up, and this begins some condescending PC interaction as he tries to adapt. I had 5 players, and after a few sessions, I had only focused on bird person.
Yeah, bird people.
You're special, you bird people.
Yeah.
We had fun at times, but also I started to get asked by every player for more attention, to which I'd respond, I'm going to focus on each character in arcs. This one's almost over, which I think went on for about 5 sessions. No one wanted to talk about their character in detail except Bird Person, who was ecstatic to develop story. But did you write this?
No.
But also started to feel too much the focus. And I wanted to end it, but I kept pushing. Introducing a demon to tie in to their ask of the other half, and my next major slip-up was with me involved learning a word had racist connotations, which I didn't know. Now I know. We kept going, and I'm giving players equal time, but definitely the narrative focus was on Bird Person. They encountered fantasy Betty White, who somehow was a
Fantasy Betty White.
who somehow was a streamer. It made sense. And a PC had to apologize on stream and promote the channel.
What's a streamer?
All right, I'm in love with this email now. It's fantastic.
I thought it said steamer.
I thought it was
I was like, oh, yeah.
And
Like a
I
Cleveland
was-
steamer?
I thought it meant stripper, which is like a Betty White stripper.
No.
No, Kimmy, no.
No.
What's wrong with you people?
Right after this,
I'd watch Betty White strip.
yeah,
I'm sorry? Okay.
never mind. All right.
Of course it would.
Kimmy's lost control of it.
I have. It's fantastic. This is the best email I've ever read. It's
She's
fantastic.
she's not good with adult children.
I can just flip you guys off. It's
You
fine.
just need more structure.
After this, however, Mako chimes in with, "Oh, don't worry, I'll just hack it and erase everything." I respond, "Okay, roll." Then he gets aggressive that it was just a joke, and I try to explain, "Okay, but if you wanted to do that, you would need to roll. You can do a lot. You just need to do it in the system somehow." And we try and explain how tons of what he did was going with jokes and rolling when he felt. And he goes on to explain how ton of what he did was going with jokes and rolling when he felt like he needed to, and how dismissive it was of the tension previously. If you can make an offhand comment and remove the narrative and mechanical consequences of multiple 6- rolls, on top of erasing the minds of however many viewers were live, which turns out he wasn't paying attention to that part, then what's the point? Well, he storms off.
Wow.
Without saying a word, not responding to messages either, he just up and leaves. We proceed.
Wow. Like you should.
Awesome.
He storms off.
Wow.
He table flipped and stormed off.
See, if you'd preface things with a group decision making, then no. I'm just kidding. It doesn't work with adults. They get really mad at you.
it doesn't. Yes, they do.
Well, he shows up the next time after.
That's kind of ballsy.
Yeah, you just like show up like
Fucking ballsy.
nothing happened.
Yeah. He shows up the next time after a week of messaging half apologies and just isn't into it. I proceeded my over-focus on a character, eventually ending in a massive party split that I was excited to explore, and also finally ending the first arc of the story so I could focus on another character. I thought it seemed right at first, but wow, it was horrible in the process. One player also felt too uncomfortable to confront me with any issues, so another did on their behalf about some other issues, and that's when I knew I'd fucked up too much. I know I'm missing more than I did, but everyone was too disappointed in me to keep going, so the group broke up.
Oh.
Now then, months and months later, I started another group, and again invited Mako along with a couple of friends we'll call Castile, Finch, and Grand. You are epic at naming, I love it.
Yeah.
We start The Veil, After Castile, Finch, and Grand, I hear an AP, and I again invite Mako. I attribute to the behavior to how bad I'd been before, and I figured he'll also be better. We'll make characters say silly abstract stuff. Mako comes up with a hunted hacker who feels a bit like a synth pop Ed from Bebop at
Cowboy
first.
Bebop, yeah.
Yep.
At first, we had one player for about one session who played the executive, but that didn't work out.
I need to take one small pause here. Can
Yeah.
you take a drink? Gina, I'm going to ask your expert opinion. What the heck is the Veil?
It's a sci-fi setting,
Yeah.
a PBTA, that cyberpunk.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now then. Oh, no, I already did it.
If
If you've never played Veil, it's a PBTA
Oh, there you go.
where your stats are emotions. We go a few sessions trying to figure out the feel of it. It's a slow process. Finch ends up having to drop from the game, and I recruited another player who had been asking to be in it. Gardner, who knows Mako also. Well, the players have already started the mission at the end of the session, where I forgot and I made an NPC AI based off Gardner. So
Which is a great name for an AI,
Yeah.
by the way, Gardner.
Yeah.
he was also very confused because I'd named him Gardner's name, and I should have changed it. The mission... The mission is to help defend a ship from pirates. Mako starts giving orders out of nowhere with a totally different character personality. He then starts arguing about roles. There was one where he wanted to find some information by hacking the data feed, which was literally asking for one of the analyze moves. We argued method versus intent for a while because the way the other move was phrased, he wouldn't get the same answer. He was also going to roll the same thing either way and wanted the choice from for one move. But was determined to roll the other move. After a bit, I let him and gave him the answer that fit the move. He was mad at that. I knew exactly what would happen, and I moved on to focus on more players. Preparations happen, he rolls mixed success, and we agree that he jams every frequency except for one. So they now know what the pirates will do. Later, he'll argue about this predicament. He continues his hacking, and his character changes on how he acts again. Meanwhile, the other PCs are doing their best to group up, figure out problems and preparations, letting them come up with what would work. I had no plans for the pirates that were attacking, letting it be based on their successes and failures, and scaling it up and down.
Very smart.
Scaffolding.
Yep.
Mako is at the bridge when he was on the bridge when he spots a pirate ship heading on an asteroid. Hiding on an asteroid that's totally different. And I'm clear about how they aren't moving yet, but you discover that they are laying in wait. He decides to lie to the other players, saying the ships were flying straight at them. I clarify again, and he says the same thing. Fight ensues, lots of conflict, and they rebuff the pirates. At the end, Mako decides that since his character was identified during the fight, he has to fake his death and jump off the spaceship. I'm baffled, and so is everyone else. Because everything else about this game has been open information, and suddenly he's revealing his character has all of these extra parts of background, and changing identities should be built in. I take a breath. We all take a breath. I tell him about how if he wants to change bodies, we'll have to sell back cybernetics for cheap and buy new things using one of the moves for acquiring cybernetics. So he should look at that. Well, he starts with what is basically a character creation, the buy process. After 20 to 30 minutes of him waffling between choices,
Oh my God.
Trying to say how items do the wrong thing to make them more powerful, and luckily Gardner has stepped up to call him out. Summary. I joined this game, and I don't want to spend all this time for you to spend on character creation, and you're taking that away from us, and you've had plenty of time to work this out. Mako leaves the call again. We finish the session, and the next day he messages me about how he knows what his next version is. A total recreation of the small clockwork dude he played in the last game. Oh, God. Creating the entire thing in the world to justify how these existed, although we talked about the limits of AI and cybernetics in the world, he chose the only world build when it was to directly benefit him and stomp over everyone else. I had already resolved to kick him out of the group after leaving the second time, but this was more than enough to make me not regret it. The group went one more session, but the Veil is a heck of a system, and we just didn't like it. Gardner left, and the others and I ended up playing Masks, some other systems, and are currently still playing together for the most part. One is infrequent, but we love him. Kicking out friends is never fun, but sometimes playing with them is worse.
Wow. You know what? That's a t-shirt. Right there. Moral of the story.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well said.
Hannah in the Windy City.
Well done.
P.S. I tried sending in a question through your contact page before this, but I don't know if you got it or not. It was about this horror story.
I don't know.
P.P.S.
Very nice, Hannah.
Drink.
Very nice.
That was a fantastic
I
email.
love the moral of the story.
I'm
Kicking
sorry.
out friends is never
Yeah.
fun, but sometimes playing
yeah.
with them is worse.
It's worse.
I'm sorry I struggled with reading it at the beginning, but that was a fantastic
well.
line.
Yeah.
Well done. And yeah, no, sometimes you are with those assholes and you just have
Why
to do
did
the
you
thing.
invite this player back a second time?
Well,
You had a huge warning the
Yeah.
first time.
I
You had a
know.
huge warning.
But-
You have some culpability here.
right, but I understand there's a little bit of that imposter syndrome the first time you're running a game, and you feel like you didn't do a good job because you fill in all those flaws and you make it your fault.
Is this the first time she ran? Was it the first
Well,
time
that's what
the
they're
first time
saying.
I think it
No,
was
but she
the
said
first
that
game that
she-
she ran with Mako. They felt, or I don't know if it's she or
said
they. They felt that they didn't do
Yeah.
a good job, so they were like, "Okay, this didn't work out because it was my fault."
Right.
Yeah.
So I applaud you for taking that responsibility as a GM. But it sounds like you gave them a chance and they continued to
Usually
fuck
it's
up.
3 strikes,
Yeah.
and this guy is such a douchebag. 2 was enough. Good on you, though.
More
You
than enough.
gave him twice.
Yeah, walking out on a game like just
See, that
bailing.
twice. The first time.
Yeah. Okay, to be fair, like no matter what you did wrong as a GM, that's kind of a bullshit way to react.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you might be right.
Sometimes just reading or listening to these, I get sympathy pains.
Yeah.
Right?
Like my whole chest is like, oh my god, how did
Oh,
you
they
play
fill me with
game
one.
after game?
It makes me love Stork a lot.
I'm like, right?
But this has actually
I already love
got
this
me thinking about a RPG player malady, and I'm not sure what to call it yet. But I
Man-child?
think no. I'm going to call it I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. I'm going to have to come up with a name for it. But there is I think we are partially to blame because of the whole yes and thing and the misinterpretation of the yes and thing, meaning
Yes.
you must always say yes to the players,
No.
which is not what
No.
we ever say, what we've ever said.
No.
But it's also I think a play style that's common in PBTA games, which is it's like the sky's the limit, and
If you could justify whatever you want to do.
one of the reasons, and this we'll do a whole segment on this at some point. One of the
Yeah.
reasons that game mechanics exist is as a gatekeeper for awesome. Do you
No.
understand, do you understand
Gatekeeper
what
for what?
awesomeness?
Oh,
Awesomeness.
sure.
Because it's like if there is not some fair mechanical way to determine when you get to do something awesome or not, you're just swapping stories around
Yeah, you're just playing an improv game.
Yeah, and I
You see what I'm saying?
You really want
I
everybody
do.
to be
It's
the
still formulating in my head. It's
really
not.
want-
It's not exact yet.
You really want everybody to be the Coyote and not Superman.
I don't know what that means. I
The
don't read
Coyote
comic books.
from Warner Brothers cartoons
Oh.
failed all the time. The dice
not
never
necessarily.
worked. Yeah, he would always plummet
No,
to
but that's
his death.
not. That's not what I necessarily mean.
I know.
He
That's
never
not what I-
died though.
No,
I was
I
trying to
think
be
I
funny.
understand what you mean. I mean, in PBTA, the fiction, the
You're mixing
narrative,
universes, Stork.
the narrative should fit
Stop being so literal.
what you're coming up with as a player, and then there might be
And sometimes players
Yes.
have a tendency to blow through those limits
yes.
Yeah.
that have been set.
So I think I know what you mean. I'm just trying to think of what you would call it. Also,
Yeah.
I have a ton of insulting names I won't mention.
But I think that's important because there's players like
I have man baby syndrome.
Can
Is
you
one
be
of the
a
ones I
boo-
came up with.
I don't think that's appropriate. I think it's more akin to like God syndrome, like someone wanting to be the ultimate of everything more than a man baby. Like the walking out is man baby, but him
Yeah.
expecting to be able to do anything is not man baby. That's more like it's like a fantasy
It's a
thing.
culture that's developed in a subculture that's developed in role playing games, I think.
Yeah.
And I think PBT, it's more so in PBT. I'm not blaming PBTA games for this.
No.
But I think it's something that tends to happen more often
because there's
because of-
less mechanical.
See, I've run into people playing D&D like that though.
No, me too.
Oh, there
and
are.
that's what
There
I was
are.
going to
The
say.
min-maxers, like that's the
Yeah.
min-maxers because they worked within the limitations of the rules. to max
That's not
that
what
out.
I'm not
No,
talking.
no.
I'm talking about people who want to.
But that's the same
who
intent.
want to be awesome without. See, that's almost an inversion of what I'm talking
but I
about.
do-
Because
I think
no,
this
this
is
is
its own
important.
topic.
Because in
it
D&D,
is, actually.
Yeah.
where we talk about the mechanics being the
Yeah.
gatekeeper of awesomeness,
Yeah.
they totally are that in D&D. And one of the things that makes players feel awesome in D&D is when they can master the game mechanics and say, oh, if I get to this level and I take this feat and this feat, I can do this and this multiplies that, and boom, 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 look what I'm capable of doing. That I think is actually... It's not more. It's not more legitimate.
Creamy, peanut butter, or crunchy.
Well,
Like,
No, but
it's-
what I'm saying is that is
Still formulating.
people. I am still
Yeah.
formulating.
Yeah.
People want the accomplishment without the work, whereas in D&D it's built. It's built into the culture of the game, where there is a mastery of this system that you can work on and sit and read books and look at feats and figure things out to be able to say, I have legitimately made an awesome character. Look upon me, look upon my works and despair.
No, for sure.
I think we should hold this, and I think this should be the
Yeah.
topic next week.
Okay, it might, maybe. I don't know if I'll have it finished by
I was
next
gonna
week.
say, 'cause
No,
this
but
whole
I think this is a
conversation
lot
with
of
Adam about
conversation
this.
with this, because I have a lot of thoughts
Yeah.
on this too.
Okay.
Yep.
So, and I think it deserves to be its own topic and not just like the end
I
of a
know, I
podcast.
missed
So next week we'll talk about player character disease.
It is a part of human nature.
Yeah.
I think of Midsummer Night's Dream as the play within the play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And Bottom's like, oh, I can do all the parts.
And
Yeah.
this is why you agree. This is why you have group decision making before you start.
All right.
All right.
I'm going to play the song. Where's the song?
Do
Hold
it.
on. Thank you for joining us for season 23, episode, what, 14? 14
Yeah.
of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu.
My name is Kimmy.
I'm Stork. Yeah.
My name is Gina.
Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Time, right here, happyjacks.org/live. And we have a convention coming up. Don't forget to go there.
Yep.
You'll enjoy it.
Sign up and play in our games.
There might be
And
special guests.
we'll be streaming, and we'll have signups for that somehow. We don't know how yet, but it'll happen somehow.
It's through the Strategicon site.
Through the Strategicon
Yeah.
site, it will happen somehow.
If you read the post on our website today, you'd know that's.
I don't read the posts. We haven't had a post on our website in years.
Mom and Dad need to talk.
It wasn't attached to an MP3.
I didn't
That's
put it in the song.
amazing. I know why you did that, too. Thank you for joining us. We'll leave you with a song.
Why problem make when you know problem have you don't want to make?
There are many organs in the torso. Some are less important, some are more so. Some they make us laugh and some they give us gas. But if they preclude my drinking, then they must go. Oh, liver, let die. Liver, let die. Oh, God, please deliver. Cirrhosis of the liver. Liver.
Stork's hair is great!
Well, the barber surgeon used to tell me that my nightly drinking, it would kill me. He said there was no doubt that my liver would give out, but nothing but that foam, yeah, will fill me. Oh, liver, let die. Liver, let die. Oh, God, please deliver. Cirrhosis of the liver. Liver, let die. So let's drink a toast unto my passing. And with all those aspersions they are casting, it appears I'll be the last. So to those that pass, I'll raise a glass. For it seems that all my doctors I'm outlasting. Oh, liver, let die. Liver, let die. Oh, God, please deliver. Cirrhosis of the liver. Liver, let die. Oh, liver, let die. Liver, let die. Oh, God, please deliver. Cirrhosis of the liver. Liver, let die.
preceding program has been a presentation of the Angry Folk Media Empire.
Welcome to Costco. I love you.